Hello, everyone. I am Jonathan Little, and today I am joined by Jared Gavin, GodsBigToe, and we're going to be reviewing a $320 buy-in tournament played on World Series of Poker.com. This is a ring event. You can win a World Series of Poker circuit ring. Jared, are you here?
I am here. I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. Very nice. For those who don't know you, introduce yourself real quick since we have a minute or two before our start time.
Sure. I'm Jared Gavin, a.k.a. GodsBigToe. I play online a bunch. I do play live as well. I've been here since before Black Friday and semi-recent member to the PokerCoaching.com team, creating quizzes and whatnot, and my first little one-on-one with Jonathan, so I'm super excited.
Awesome. Very nice. So you stream a lot, right?
I do stream a lot, 3 or 4 days a week, and been doing that for about 3 years now. It was funny. I lost my study group. They kind of disbanded, and so I was desperately searching for people to get better with, and so I started streaming to do that. And 3 years later, it's been a whirlwind. It's been really incredible. I got to all the way up to meeting you, so it was a great choice.
It is interesting how it works. I mean, all you have to do is put yourself out there, right? If you put yourself out there, people will find you. You have to be a little bit discerning sometimes, but you'll find good people to hang out with, and next thing you know, they're your new study partners, and you're working together, and you're improving your skills.
Yeah, and winning always helps. If you win a lot, people come.
Yeah, it turns out if you win, you get more recognition than if you don't win.
True.
All right, so we do have this hand history review to go through. Before we do get started, though, we actually have a big sale taking place at PokerCoaching.com right now at PokerCoaching.com/lucky for St. Patrick's Day. I know it was yesterday. But you can still get access to that at PokerCoaching.com/lucky. I know all of you are stuck at home at the moment, so you might as well make the most of your study time. All right, Jared, so let's get started. Here we are playing very, very deep stacked. What is this, 500 big blinds deep? I don't know how to play 500 big blind poker very well, but we will do our best.
Yeah, I'm a tournament player, so I'm going to be uncomfortable until I get to like 30 or 40. But
really, I don't think you need to do anything all that differently. Just realize we're basically playing a cash game early in these tournaments, but also some people will just use like really big bet sizes, really big raise sizes, and sometimes they'll just make incredibly big punts. So you want to play hands that can make the nuts, and you want to be very careful with reverse implied odds hands if 500 big blinds goes all in, like, a 5 high flush or something like that.
Sure. And then I know that you like to go kind of like 2.5-ish when you're this deep. I tend to min-raise always.
Maybe even like 3 or 3.5, really. Because the pre-flop bets at this point aren't even that relevant. It's more like what we really care about is stacking people or winning 100 big blinds. And it's way easier to do that if you build
the pot.
If you build the pot. So why do you prefer min-raising?
I would say that some of it is because I'm 15 tabling and it's easy. I mean, that's not a good excuse, but it's definitely the excuse. And honestly, I think it's just a bad habit of 10 years of min-raising. So that definitely could be a sign of or someplace to improve. Well,
there you go. Right off the bat, that is a nice, easy thing to do. I don't know if World Series lets you use any sort of table
no, they don't.
feature, like anything that could help you with that.
But, I mean, it's easy enough to go 2.5 or 3x, right? Super easy.
Okay. I mean, really, the answer is just do it, right?
Sure.
Do it. Don't be lazy. It will help you in the long run.
Okay.
I just realized I'm only streaming on YouTube and not the other places. Good thing we started early and we figured that out really quick. All right, so now we're going to be live on a few other places, so that is good. All right, so go ahead. Let's get through some hands. We have about an hour and a half. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in, and I will address them if I can. And if I can't, well, that's okay.
Cool. We got a couple limpers. Super deep, and people are super limpy. I decided to ISO here.
Sure. Well, so at this point, I'm not really thinking I'm not raising for necessarily isolation purposes. I'm raising because we have the best hand very frequently. And
sure,
also because we can just make the nuts, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think this is fine. If someone raises, I would probably just call, though. I'd probably not 3-bet too often.
Yeah, I always flat this one if there's a raise in front, for the most part. Okay. Unless I'm deep enough where we're like going to rejam it and get it in, for sure. Yeah, cool. And first hand came down super easy.
All right. Kind of interesting to see them limping in then folding when they're very deep. Most people are not making that play, but...
See, too, like, these tend to be pretty weak, and so I think we see a lot of over-limpers and too much limping.
Okay, cool.
Another one where I tend to flat instead of 3-bet because I don't want to get 4-bet off of such a pretty hand.
Well, so I will say you cannot get 4-bet off of this hand this deep stacked.
Okay.
To some extent. Like, say you did make it 450 and this player makes it 1400. I'm still just calling.
Okay.
Because we're in position and we're super deep, and if we make a very good hand, we're very happy.
And
that said, I still am just calling.
Okay.
But I would not be, that idea of I don't want to get 4-bet off of this hand doesn't really apply when you're 500 big blinds deep.
Yeah, okay. And the good thing is with this hand, we block a lot of the top of the range, I imagine, too, and that helps.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
Kings
just,
and king and queen.
I'm more so just trying to play hands that can make very good post-flop hands.
Okay.
And this is definitely one of them. So like right here, if somebody behind us 3-bet, I just don't care. I'm going to call, see a flop, and I realize I'm going to lose a lot of the time post-flop, but that's okay. Because we're putting in a relatively small amount of money to potentially win a ton.
And this 3-bet size is pretty small. With the call, we get great odds, right?
Yeah, it's way too small. It's not a good play.
Check folding a lot, like you said. Oh, checks around.
I would still just check. Just not putting any money in here.
Yeah, I went crazy because they bet checked. I could definitely see checking because they have some.
At this point, it's kind of easy for Skywalker to have an ace. Definitely checking on the flop, and checking on the turn is certainly reasonable. Okay. It's also easy enough for Martello to have the ace as well, like ace 6 or something that was decided to bluff preflop, or ace jack. And they are at least somewhat likely to call with an underpair one time, like pocket 10s. They may even call 800 with that one time. So if you're going to bet the turn, you definitely need to bet the river.
I'm 100% betting river.
But it's kind of dicey because like that is what we're trying to make them fold. But if they have an ace, they're just literally never folding.
Agreed.
So I would just check here and not put any money in. But whatever, you bet. So you bet, and you're going to be bluffing every river. I guess unless it's a king or a queen. So ace on the river is obviously terrible, but I think you still just need to bet.
I give up. I do think I need to bet too.
I mean, we're trying to get him off of 10, so will they fold?
Yeah,
10s?
I thought like some of his floats were ace sets, but this is bad. This is just bad.
King 5.
That hand specifically, right?
Well, I wouldn't think they have too many king 5 suited yet. There they are. And like you just really want to ask, what bluffs do I have here? And you do have a lot of bluffs. That's the problem. That's why I would not bluff the king queen to begin with. Like if I had 10-9 of diamonds or 10-9 of hearts, I would definitely be bluffing.
Sure.
Right? Because those hands have plenty of equity on the turn and they can't win at the showdown. Whereas king queen can actually win at the showdown every once in a while. Like say everybody has queen jack or jack 10 or something. And if you're bluffing this hand, you're definitely bluffing too often. Not that that necessarily matters against specific opponents. Like it's fine to over-bluff, but I think that this is just not a hand that's necessary to do it with because it does have a little bit of showdown value and because it's really easy for them to have an ace or a hand that will just call you every time.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, that's definitely I get the idea that's a bad river to bluff, but I think you still just probably need to go for it.
I agree. I like how I said I 100% betting river and then checked it.
You had full intention to do it, but then that happened.
All
right, so you min raise, get called, and then get 3-bet. Okay.
So I tend to fold here.
I mean, I would never fold here this deep stacked. This goes back again to 500 big blind poker. I'm just going to call. I don't love it. I mean, if you know something about your opponent, like say you know your opponent's really tight and just always has a good hand, like a really good hand, then I guess folding is reasonable. But I'm calling here every time. I mean, I may even 4-bet every once in a while. I mean, I get the idea that it's not a great spot for you because you're going to be dominated a lot. But it's 240 chips into what's going to be a 700 or 1,000 chip pot, right?
Yeah.
1,200 chip pot if the other guy calls. So, I mean, you'll realize your equity well enough. You don't love it, but I'm okay calling in these spots because I just know I'm not going to get stacked when I make a random top pair. Yet, if I do make 2-pair or trips, especially with a jack, we're usually very, very happy. So I'm basically playing all these hands kind of like they're implied odds hands. So
if you hit an ace, you're just check calling 2 streets and evaluating river, likely giving up if he bombs it most of the time.
And that's the thing is like everyone fears that spot where he's going to go bet, 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 but they just don't go bet, bet, bet very often. They do sometimes, but not very often.
And I think a lot of these games are weak passive, so they're more likely to c-bet and give up or double barrel and give up than triple as a bluff.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Okay.
Where do you stream on a regular basis? We have a question for you.
Yeah, I put the link in. twitchtv.com/GodsBigToe. And
all right.
One good thing, too, is on Saturdays, we do a little promo there, too. Saturdays at noon Eastern, we do the pokercoaching.com study session stream. No delay, where we go over the quizzes on Jonathan's site. And it's really interactive. We reach out to you guys, get your opinion first. Me and my partner, Crazy Sixes, who also streams twitchtv.com/Crazy Sixes. we go over it together, give what we would do, and then we see what the coach would do. And we do little giveaways at the end on whose chat does better. So check in on that.
Whose chat does better typically?
Oh, I can't say that publicly. You're
okay.
gonna call me out now?
No, it's okay. It's okay. Go ahead. All right.
I actually think it's pretty damn close to even. We've kind of lost count because we've done a bunch of them now, but it's really, really close. It's interesting. And yeah, it's interesting because I think Crazy Sixes is more of the exploitative Assassinato type players, and I'm more of the solid sound and similar to you or to Matt Affleck. And so we get into some interesting debates. It's really fun.
Awesome. Well, very good. Yeah, check that out on their Twitch channels. Also, can people follow you on Twitter somewhere?
Twitter / GodsBigToe or at GodsBigToe Poker, Facebook GodsBigToe Poker. You can find me there all over the place.
Excellent. Good.
Google GodsBigToe. I'm the only GodsBigToe Poker. I'm the only one.
And if you have not signed up for your free trial membership of poker coaching, well, the study sessions are a great way to see what we have going on there.
Yeah, I'll give my whole spiel. You get 20 free quizzes, a bunch of homework, big blind charts for 100 blinds and more, all for free. You're foolish if you give up the chance to get just free content. And yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. If you want full access to the site right now, we have big discounts at pokercoaching.com/lucky. So go there, check it out. Don't forget it. Utilize your time stuck at home well. All right, next hand, pocket tens.
Pocket tens. I tend to flat.
I'm just always calling yes.
Check the aggressor, and I'm always calling.
Mm-hmm.
And check the aggressor, and likely giving up.
Yeah, ace is obviously very bad, but folding's fine. Folding's fine.
Cool.
It's always unfortunate when the turn is just like obviously good for them /
Yeah,
obviously bad for you, which means you're just losing that a lot of the time, but that's okay. It's okay to give up sometimes. And often whenever they do just check it down, you end up winning, right? So that's the thing. You lose in the spots where you flop poorly, but often you don't. Or when you turn poorly, but you don't always lose in those spots. I think a lot of people feel like they always lose in those spots, but you don't always lose there.
Tens are a pretty good hand.
Yeah, king, queen. All right. Under the gun raise.
Yeah, this is a 3-bet or fold for me. I'm not sure what I do here, to be honest with you.
I would probably just 3-bet or fold, as you say. And either one. Doesn't really matter.
I flatted, which is weird.
I would not flat.
I would not flat either.
Shout out to your subscribers. John, Paul, and Cyrus in the chat. Hello, hello.
Oh, JPG. And then checking back a lot, I think.
I mean, like, if I did happen to flat here.
It's kind of a good spot to go bet.
I mean, I don't know. The problem, this is kind of like that same spot you had a second ago with the king, queen, where like you win at the showdown every once in a while, but you probably just don't. So this is probably just too many. It's obviously too many bluffs to be bluffing here, but when this guy does check, it's probably okay to bluff and just keep barreling, but it's certainly a nasty spot, which is why I don't necessarily want to flat call in the first place.
Agreed. Had I 3-bet, are you c-betting a board like this?
Yeah, probably. They're going to fold out a lot of their unpaired hands.
I tend to, like, if I 3-bet, kind of shy away from boards so connected and figure out turn and river.
Twitch.tv/GodsBigToe, correct?
Yep.
All right, there you go. For some reason, I don't think your typing was going through on my end, but there it is. Twitch.tv/GodsBigToe. All right, so you went check, turns a 4.
Should be betting again. Kind of hate it.
So the 4 is kind of like, once the 4 comes, it's actually kind of bad to bet because now if he has ace high, he's going to call a lot.
Sure. And then the card like this, I just never get any folds.
Yeah, now just check. But I think I would have probably just started off by betting the flop if I was there. And like right here, with ace 8, he might call you once, but he's definitely going to be folding by the river.
100%.
What size would we use on the flop if we 3-bet? I'd be betting, 2/3-ish pot, like kind of big. We're trying to get stuff like decent ace highs to fold. Or set up a turn bet if someone did float the flop or call the flop with like pocket 8s and then the turn is a jack or an ace or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to use a relatively big bet. I mean, we are very deep stacked here, right? This is not a very normal tournament scenario where we're playing 30 big blinds deep. Here we're playing 500 big blinds deep. And typically you're going to use bigger bet sizes across the board in that situation.
Sure. The question was, what sizing on the flop would you guys use if we 3-bet? I mean, I tend to, I call it the alley-oop. I tend to go like 33 to 40% on the flop and then 60-ish% on the turn a lot.
Right, and so what I'm saying is in this spot, because we are so deep, I'd be using bigger bet sizes.
Bigger bet size completely?
In general.
Okay.
More like 2/3 pot, and then, like really, you just need to be able to apply pressure. And you can't really apply pressure when you're using tiny bets. Or when your opponents don't feel as if they are kind of at risk. Like if it's 200 on the flop and then 700 on the turn, they're like, whatever, I'm just going to keep calling.
Yeah, they never sweat when we're a million blinds deep.
Right, whereas if you start going like 400, 1200, they're like, oh, I'm going to lose 5,000 chips in this hand now.
Okay, I like that. I like to swing the hurt hammer, so that works for me.
Yeah, swing it. Or at least threaten to swing it.
Yeah, because a lot of times when you make them cringe, then they make mistakes, right? Or they turn their hand face up a lot of times, which is the great thing about it.
Is there a quarantine special for poker coaching? Yes, go to pokercoaching.com/lucky. The link, the URL's right over there in the corner, or down at the bottom. Check it out, pokercoaching.com/lucky. Quarantine special just for you. All right, so you raise, get called.
So is this a spot where you would go bigger on your C-bets? Because I know I'm going to go like 100. 110.
I would probably go bigger in this spot in general because you're going to get literally no folds on this board otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, what should this guy even fold? I mean, if he has like 9-7 of clubs, I guess he can fold.
Sure.
But I mean, he's going to float you every time. And at least he should float you every time. We'll see, right? If the guy's going to fold to 120, then yeah, feel free to bet 120.
Sure. He just float me, and I'm going to go like 325 here probably.
Also, I was going to say, I actually don't mind just like check calling the flop too. I think that's reasonable with this hand. I mean, this board doesn't really connect so well with either player, but he should have some 10s like ace 10, queen 10, king 10, queen 10, jack 10, 10, 9 suited, right?
Sure.
So he's going to have some of those, but you can easily check call. If you bet, you're going to get called a lot, and then you end up in this scenario, which is not great. I think you're probably just supposed to check this turn and then check fold.
Okay.
Because it's so easy for him. I mean, at this point when you're betting again, you're trying to get him to fold out a pair, like pocket sevens or something.
Sure.
But there really aren't a ton of those, and it's very easy for him to have ace jack, king jack, queen jack, a 10, right? If he has any hand with a diamond, he's not going to fold.
Sure.
So I think it's
basically random ace high floats, and then.
But you beat ace high floats, right?
I do. True.
I mean, that's the issue: is whatever he's going to fold, you beat, and if he just has a diamond, he's not going to fold, and he's going to turn a lot of those into a bluff on the river.
Fair.
So I would just check here.
Okay.
So you bet he calls, river's a 2.
And now I just give up. I'm sure.
I mean, see, this is the tough part here is that he should call you a ton on the turn, right?
Right. So maybe this is the triple line if I take it.
I mean, if I would never ever be here because I would always check the turn. If I was here, it's probably okay to just blast it.
And would you go super big? I mean, I feel like we got to go super big.
Well, you always want to ask, what am I trying to get him to fold? We're trying to get him to fold a 10, basically, right? Or pocket
grab a 10 or under pair. Yeah.
So those hands, we probably do need to go rather big, like 1,300. Maybe 2,500. You know, like this is a reasonable spot to really apply a lot of pressure if you are going to do that. But I would have just checked the turn and then checked the river and been done with it and lost nothing.
I like it.
And the problem here is that when you check the river, he should be bluffing with like every unpaired hand.
Every hand compared. Yeah, absolutely.
So it puts you in a very bad spot where you're just losing this pot a ton when you check the river.
Especially because I don't think I double barrel a lot of 10x myself, right? I'm probably check calling a lot of turns.
Right. And I mean, if you did have a jack on the river, I think it's fine to check it. If you did happen to have a 10, I would definitely check it.
Okay.
But the problem is that if you like go through the poker coaching homework challenge here that we have at pokercoaching.com, you're going to see that whenever you check this river, your range is probably very weak if you take this line in general.
Sure.
And you're probably not defending anywhere near minimum defense frequency,
sure.
which is like whatever, 75% or something on that river. And you're probably defending more like 30%. If we're using this strategy, and that's just way too low.
Okay.
All right. We do have a lot of hands to go through, by the way, today, so we're not going to be stopping and going 10 minutes on any individual hand. We're going to move quickly for all of you, so we see lots of good content. GodsBigToe did take, 9th place in this tournament? 8th place?
8th place in this one, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, I've been having a funny little run the last 2 weeks. It's been all 8s, 9s, 10s, 13s. 12, but that's a good problem to have, I suppose.
I did that for about 3 years straight in live poker, and lost a bunch of money. It is frustrating because at the end you're just like one flip away from having a ton of chips.
Yeah,
and actually like 2 or 3 of them, I actually was like in big all ins for chip lead with 10 people left and just lost them all.
Yeah, that's the worst.
That's gonna happen. Get used to it. All right, so you limp small blind, which is great.
Yeah, and I'm gonna limp lead a ton. I don't know if I do or not for this board. It's pretty wet.
It's probably fine just about one big blind.
That's what I do.
So one big blind here I think is actually 40. Not to nitpick. Oh, no, it's 60. So there's no ante here.
Yeah.
No ante. Interesting. All right. Okay, so one big blind's fine, and then I would just give up at this point. Because if you can get him to fold out all sorts of junk, right?
Yeah.
And now I would keep bluffing with my flush draws and then just check fold everything else.
I bet. I'm surprised. And we got him that time.
It does work.
It does.
I mean, you probably do have a lot of fold equity here, but, well, some fold equity. The thing is that you have tons of decent bluffs. Also, you have some queens. You have a lot of kings that would like to just be checking. Mm-hmm. So I'm not betting there.
Okay.
When do you start to employ GTO strategies? Right off the bat, and then you adjust to whatever your opponents do wrong, right? So if you're playing on a specific site like WorldSeriesOfPoker.com, and you know your opponents on this side are all loose, passive, weak, you're going to adjust from a strong strategy right off the bat to take advantage of whatever they're doing correctly. So 3-bet or fold. You can call 2. Do whatever you want.
Okay.
I'd probably 3-bet, though.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised I didn't.
I lean towards 3-betting early in the tournament. It really does. First off, it lets the regulars know you're in there kind of battling as opposed to just a nit, right? And, well, especially on sites where you can use a heads-up display, which I know you can't on this site, you can't on Party Poker. There are a lot of sites now you can't use heads-up displays. But if you can, it will really skew your stats for people who have stats, just like generic stats, as opposed to stats based on stack depth. Because if you play kind of crazy, kind of aggressive when you're deep, they're going to presume you're playing crazy and aggressive when you're shallow, which may or may not be true.
Sure. It's like the tightest guy in the world might go crazy on a rejam stack or blind versus blind. Sure.
But that's not really what we're looking at here, right? Because you don't have the heads-up display stats.
And I do have Slapshot marked as a good player. Which... Take a lot of notes.
Yeah, notes are good. All right, raise 3-bet. I would just fold.
I think so as well.
I mean, I don't do a whole lot of cold calling of 3-bets, especially when you can get 4-bet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you get 4-bet, this is just miserably bad.
So bad. You're just kind of burning chips.
Right. So I would have folded there, for sure. If I had a hand like jacks or queens, it becomes way dicier, like ace-king. I'd probably just flat with a lot of those, but even then, 4-betting's fine.
Yeah, I think
and 4-betting probably could be ideal, actually.
I'd probably 4-bet the queens because I always push those a little harder. But yeah, definitely flatting jacks. Ace-king is weird, too. I think I probably flat ace-king as well.
Well, so think about this, though. If you have a flatting range of exactly jacks and ace-king, it makes you very, very easy to play against.
Sure.
And for that reason, I think you probably just want to be 4-betting a lot of your range in that scenario. I mean, I could be very wrong about this because, like I said, I'm not a 400 big blind deep poker expert.
Right.
So I'd probably fold. I'd probably 4-bet or fold a lot of those spots, and I would 4-bet the best hands. Why not 3-bet the nines? Well, we weren't 3-betting. It went raise 3-bet before it got to us, so we'd be 4-betting Hussein. All right, so you raise, get called, get
squeaked.
3-bet. I mean, I actually don't hate flat calling again. This is just purely because we are 200-something big blinds deep.
And you're just nut hunting, basically.
Yeah, and the guy didn't make it huge, and if it does come ace, jack 3 or something, you're usually pretty happy. Also, it's kind of nice to be known as the guy who just doesn't fold a lot.
Sure.
And that will make people way less inclined to 3-bet you in general. Like, if they know you're just going to raise and then fold a decent amount of the time, they're going to start attacking you somewhat hard.
Sure.
So I like to let people know that we are in here, we are trying to play pots, and I think that's probably a little bit better. I mean, it's going to lead to more swings, but swings aren't necessarily the end of the world in a tournament where you need to get all the chips.
Sure. Yeah, and I just don't want to be the exploitable nit.
Why not call the nines again? You're getting okay odds to flop a set. The problem is we get 4-bet every once in a while, and we get set over set sometimes, and we really don't get to realize our equity well at all when we miss because we're multi-way. Someone's going to be betting very frequently. So a lot of things can go wrong there. And yes, it's an 18th of our stack instead of an 8th, but out of position, facing a spot where we could get 4-bet enough to fold against 2 presumably strongish ranges. You just don't want to be involved there at all.
Yeah, if there wasn't someone behind us, you're going to flat a 3-bet with nines, of course, right?
Yeah, of course. If we were closing the action, I would definitely have been in there, but we weren't, right? And that's a big difference here. Sure.
Someone asked, "What did I mark someone a good player, and what makes me mark them a good player versus a bad player?" I mean, bad players are much easier to mark, I think, because if you limp twice, you're automatically getting the limp tag for me and things like that. Or you make some quick whip raise. The guy with King 5 suited automatically gets a note. So bad players are easy, and good players, I notice when they have good balanced ranges, they check back places where most people see bet and things like that. Then I'll give them a marked player. Or if it's just someone because I play a lot that I always see, the good regs. You kind of start to know each other. It's a little band of it's like a fraternity, right? It's always the same people deep. Especially on this site where your average field size is like 200 players. So I'm literally at Matt Affleck's table every single time.
Awesome. All right, if you all are here and you're enjoying this, click like, click subscribe. It goes a long way to helping me. Also, head over to twitch.tv/GodsBigToe and subscribe there, and you'll be notified. Well, click the notification button, and you'll be notified whenever he goes live, so you can follow along live. All right, so you were raising at min 3-bet. I would definitely just call and go from there.
And get an interesting board, double gutter.
So I would basically always just call, and I would have no raising range here, because whenever the guy min 3-bets pre-flop, I'm already kind of having alarm bells go off, which may or may not be accurate, because who knows what the guy's actually doing.
Sure.
And also, this board should be very good for a pre-flop 3-betting range.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just not raising anything.
And our hand's just a little too good to fold.
Oh, I'm not folding. We have double gut shot here.
And always good when you know it's coming. You should always call.
Well, I mean, like, I'm literally never folding a decent straight draw or, like, overcards with a gut shot or anything like that to a half-pot bet, ever.
Yeah, me either.
Like, even if it was queen 10-4, I'm still just calling. It sucks, but for half-pot bet, very deep stacked. When you get there, you can get paid off very nicely. And then with double gut shot or open-ended or flush draw, you're literally never folding.
Yeah. The more of a mouthful it is, right? Double gutter, overcards, flush, the better it is.
So, I mean, look, I don't do a whole lot of leading, but this may be a spot where leading has a decent amount of merit because it's going to go check a ton.
Yeah.
And it's very easy for the guy to have a set or ace-king. Like basically hands that are live to outdraw you, or he could have 2-pair. Mm-hmm. And if I did have some bad flush draw here, I would also very likely consider bluffing it. Like say I had ace-5 of diamonds or ace-5 of hearts or something. If I did have whatever, you could find some other heart hand I could have, right?
Sure.
I would at least consider it. So I think you're probably supposed to lead here very deep stack because it's supposed to go check every time. Sure.
I did check and expected a check. So this is a spot where like I tend to raise the nuts, and now I'm wondering if that's better off to just call.
It's probably fine to just raise. I mean, we're really deep stacked. If you do raise to like 2,000, he's probably not going to make it 6,000 all that often. If he does, it's miserably bad. Odds of him having king jack are really low.
Yeah, I'm amazed I didn't bet the nuts here.
So yeah, I would have raised. There are also a lot of draws he could have, right? That's the issue, is that the board's very draw heavy. So
yeah, now I'm going to
check. Very
check.
draw heavy. You probably should just go ahead and raise.
And I'm going to check here, and he's going to check back always. It's really weird for me to lead, right?
I would not lead here. I would just check and hope the guy keeps bluffing with like ace king or ace 9, right?
Yeah.
Good to see the min 3-bets with total garbage though, right? So that's good to know.
He definitely got a note and a tag for that.
What percent of the pot is too large to chase draws? First off, the idea of chasing a draw is kind of a bad term to use because, I mean, you're just trying to realize your equity in these scenarios. I think a lot of people get annoyed when people outdraw them. It's like, oh, look at that fish. He chased his draw. And like right there, I already told you, I'm like calling any like a pot size bet with a gut shot every time in that scenario because we're very, very deep stacked and we're drawing to the nuts. It's really not a question of what percentage of the pot is too big. It's more a question of, are we going to realize our equity? And that's tough to know in a lot of scenarios. And it's often not as easy to say as don't call a pot size bet with X outs or fewer because position matters, stack depth matters, your opponent's range matters, how they're going to play the turn in the river matter. So sometimes you should be folding to decently large bets like pot size bets or 2/3 pot size bets, especially on the turn whenever you're very shallow stacked. And other times we are not folding ever. So it depends is the answer to that. Sorry, it's not a great answer, but it is what it is. All right, go ahead. Should we have led on the river? No, I don't like leading the river because there when the guy keeps betting the turn. First off, he should have checked the turn. Your opponent's going to check the turn a lot. When he doesn't, he's going to have a lot of draws and a lot of nut hands. If he has a draw, he's going to continue bluffing sometimes on the river. And you really want to let him bluff the river. And if he has a nut hand like a jack, you're getting money in anyway and it doesn't matter. All right, so you raise, goes call. So I would just check fold here.
Checking. And somehow we have the best hand.
Good.
Easy.
Who's saying this question is not relevant right now? Ask us that in the poker coaching webinar. You should have roughly 2 bluffs to every 1 value hand on exactly the flop, not the turn and not the river. Kings are great.
Kings are good. And I'm going to see bet small. Ish.
Yeah, this is fine. So this board is very uncoordinated, and on very uncoordinated boards, in position with the range advantage, with the nut advantage, betting small is fine.
Cool.
I will try to answer questions I think are very relevant. I'm not going to answer hypothetical random questions today because we are trying to stick to a schedule.
I'm always defending for one.
So I will say that when you're playing very deep stacked, you should actually be less inclined to defend pre-flop from the big blind with just like total garbage.
Huh?
And this is actually really close.
Okay.
Like I would never call Jack 2 offsuit. And,
No, I wouldn't.
I mean, Jack 2 suited isn't all that much better because when you make flushes, usually it's going to be the non-nut flush. Well, it is going to be the non-nut flush. And I would have called here, but just be careful, especially when there's no ante in play. If there's an ante in play, it becomes way better. If there's no ante in play, you do need to be tighter.
So I was watching your video with Acevedo a little while back, and he was talking about defending to a min raise to 2.3. And he was saying that like any ace, any king, all suited cards, and then like I think it was queen 6 often better, jack 5 often better. Do you think going when we're deeper stacked, we should be tighter than that range?
You should be tighter.
What you had in that tournament.
As you get tighter, as you get deeper stacked, you should be tighter because you're going to realize your equity worse.
Sure.
Meaning, like, say you do have the jack 2 here, and this flop's a good example. If your opponents go bet, 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 you're going to fold by the river.
Sure.
But if you're playing 15 big blinds deep, you're never folding.
Sure.
So when you're shallow, you get to defend with a wider range. Also, multi-way, you actually need to be a little bit tighter.
Sure.
Because you're more likely to be dominated.
Sure.
With junk, right?
For some flat odds and all that. Or even not even be able to realize your equity because you're out of position. So I do check. It checks around, and it looks like we're just going to check this down too.
Great. That's exactly what you want here.
You just keep winning.
Good. Do we recommend min-raising pre-flop? We discussed this earlier. I'd be raising a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
GodsBigToe is going to fix this.
I am. It's on my notepad. I have notes here.
Good. Take notes. Rewatch this video a million times. It's going on YouTube, and it's going to be there forever.
Yeah, little study too. I always take notes like this. I usually, if I have a ton of them, I'll make like the top 5 things, and I'll put that paper right above my mouse, and that way, every time I go to act, it stares me in the face until I work it out, and then move on to the next 5 things.
So earlier we folded 9s to a raise and a 3-bet. I would actually call here every time. Funny enough. Okay. And now that's because we are in position and we're facing a smaller 3-bet size. And if the initial raise are 4 bets,
easy.
We can then.
Oh, you're going to call this, Steve?
Call.
Okay.
Like say Marty here does make it 2,000. I'm just going to call in position then and try to flop the nuts.
Okay.
So we're facing a smaller raise and we're in position, and if Marty does 4-bet and slap shot calls, well, then we closing the action, getting the right odds. So everything's going right for us in this scenario, whereas with the 9s a second ago, everything was going wrong for us. It was a bigger raise. We were out of position. It could have gone 4-bet, 5-bet, etc.
Got it.
We just lose. This is a $320 World Series of Poker ring event.
Yeah, because of this craziness going on, they moved the circuit events to online. So they've been every day for the last 2 weeks. It's been great.
Awesome. Get in there. Collect it.
Yeah, doing pretty okay so far.
So this is a rough one because you have the Queen of Diamonds. I think you're probably just supposed to bet here. If you did not have Queen of Diamonds or Queen of Hearts for backdoor flush draw here, I would probably just check fold, but I think you're probably supposed to go ahead and bet this.
Okay. Yeah, this guy too I have marked as super limpy collie, so I think this hits his range more, which is probably why I deviated, but okay. I could definitely see it.
I mean, the thing is, like, even if it does hit his range decently well, you have to think a lot of that range is going to get way worse by the river.
Sure.
So when you bet here, you're going to keep betting on a lot of the overcards, any diamond, and you're probably triple barreling this one a lot. So like you already realized we were doing this. So the only time I'm not triple barreling here is if this guy is going to, it's like hero call now with ace 3 or something a lot. And even then, it's like not the end of the world. If you tell me the guy's going to call down with ace 3, I would rather bet the flop and then get to the turn so I can continue betting if I feel inclined.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just going to check it up there a lot.
Right, and if we check down, you just don't win.
Unless that happens. But yeah, most of the time we don't win.
So I value bet now.
Yeah.
I bet like 300, something like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, do not check here. Especially if you tell me the guy is like loose and passive. That's the kind of guy you want to be value betting very thinly against.
Yeah, because he's going to call with a 3 and the 7 a lot.
And he's just going to check down when he doesn't have anything.
Agreed.
That's the other problem. Is like, say he does have ace high, he's just gonna go check, 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 check. He's not gonna turn it into a bluff ever.
True.
Whereas if he did have a hand like ace 4, it's probably right to be turning this into a bluff at some point.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
for that reason, this is a scenario where I think it's like a mandatory river value bet. If you get raised, it's miserably bad, but it's not going to happen all that often. And then you can call accordingly, right? If you tell me the guy is loose and passive, if he's raising you on the river, he probably has a very good hand.
Yeah.
Larry says, everyone here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. These players are excellent. Well, we do our best. All right, so this was a limp, min raise, call. So this is actually kind of similar to the 9s earlier, where I think I would actually fold. Because we're out of position, because the initial min raiser can 4-bet now. So I would fold this one, as you do. So good, we're 3 for 3 on these pairs. Is this being streamed on Twitch? It is being streamed on twitch.tv/Jonathan Little, but if you already asked me this question on YouTube, you might as well just stay here on YouTube. Unless you don't like YouTube for some reason.
Cool.
Twitch.tv/GodsBigToe later in the future. Check that out.
Yeah, I think I might even stream tonight. Might play the ring event.
There you go. You have to now. You have a bunch of new subscribers, presumably.
That, and I've been studying all day. It's a good time. I always love getting in there after studying, and so it's part of the day. Get the brain warmed up, get in the right mind frame. It's great. I always seem to play better.
I mean, I'd probably 3-bet this. But fold's fine. Fold's fine. Call's fine. You can really do whatever you want. I mean, this guy does not strike me as a very good player, the initial raiser. So I think I would probably go ahead and just 3-bet it.
Okay. Yeah, I would definitely 3-bet this more likely if there wasn't an early call, but I could definitely see.
Like even with the call, like I don't even care. It's probably something marginal.
Sure. If he had a real hand, he would have raised.
Not necessarily, but very likely, right?
Sure.
Larry says, get a ring. You need to get a ring, indeed. I have 0 rings. You have any rings?
I am 7 away from a ring and 20 away from a bracelet. I'm that guy.
Close.
Close. I'm the close guy.
I haven't played very many ring events, but whenever they give us online poker, I'll start playing all these.
Do you ever consider traveling for stuff like this online?
No.
It's not worth it with your family and everything.
Life's too hectic.
I get it. Do you leave the house much? I find being an online poker player, I like quarantine. This is just a normal Wednesday for me.
Yeah, I mean, my wife's always like, "Oh, we have to go outside and get fresh air." And I'm like, "Oh, I haven't been outside in 4 days, just voluntarily for fun." All right, King Jack, I would fold there, but whatever.
Yeah,
you want to 3-bet it, you can do whatever you want. You'd be 3-betting too much if you're 3-betting like King Jack in that scenario, but it could be fine.
Yeah, I would fold it, but I would 3-bet it if it came from like one of these later position raises. If I was in like cutoff button somewhere like that.
Mm-hmm. Ted says I have a wedding ring. Indeed.
I'm one of those.
That's what locks you in. Locked in, cannot leave. Oh, to be young and single again.
I don't know. I like being old and established. Life's simpler. It's quieter. Easy.
It's true. You can't get rich or die trying, though.
That's true.
Hey, I guess you still can if you don't feel like being...
If I was in my 20s, I'd move to Mexico and give it a real shot. C-bet here, I probably...
I think it's fine to bet. You can check, too. It doesn't really matter. The nice thing about checking... Well, the nice thing about betting is that you just don't get bluffed off your hand nearly as easily. Because you're not going to get raised all that often. And you get to see the turn for whatever price you like to set. That said, checking's fine. Do whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
I mean, there really are a lot of spots. You can kind of do whatever you want. If you're checking, you're not folding, right? So, I mean, you want to be checking in spots where your opponents are going to be raising a lot if you bet. And you want to be betting a lot in spots where your opponents are not going to be raising a lot if you bet. And you told me already the games are kind of loose-ish, passive-ish, which makes me more inclined to be betting in general because they're not going to raise you very often.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the worst thing people can do to you is raise you. And if they're not going to raise you all that often, then it becomes very beneficial to bet.
Okay. Makes sense.
What's the plan if we get re-raised before the flop with our ace-king? We're probably just going to call, given we're under the gun, and we are... Super deep stacked, yeah. All right, so anyway, check. Once you check flop, I would just be checking down.
Cool. Have to call the back seat. I'm going to go fast. That's always nice.
Good.
Time. We're into Annie's now.
I would call.
Yeah, I bet you I'd fold it, but I'd probably see the call. Get a good Jillian odds.
I would literally always call or raise, one of the two, and I would almost never raise.
Yeah.
Because, like, right here, even if, I mean, first off, the blinds aren't going to raise all that often. And your hand flops well enough. You're in position. Like, this is a good spot to have a pretty wide calling range. I mean, if I had, like, 8-7 offsuit, I'd probably still call.
Okay.
That's about the bottom of it, though.
Okay.
So, yeah, something like that.
What about hands like King 9 or something? Are you going that way?
I would probably
King
be a little
10.
bit more inclined to turn King 9 into a bluff.
Okay.
And pot it, or a little bit bigger than pot.
Okay.
Queen 9 becomes a little bit better to flat. Basically, as it flops better, you should be more inclined to limp.
Got it.
As it flops worse, you should be more inclined to raise or fold. Like, say I had ace 6 offsuit, I would fold.
Sure.
Whereas, like, ace 9 offsuit, I'm probably going to raise.
Okay.
Did you ever stop barreling as an exploitative move? Well, it depends on your opponent's strategy, right? If they're going to call you every time, obviously you shouldn't be barreling. If you tell me the opponents fold way too often, then you should probably continue bluffing a lot, unless the river card is especially terrible for you. Do we call Queen 9? Yes. Do we call Queen 8? No. All right, so here we have raise.
Bet, I call.
Okay.
He calls in the back seat. And we get a good top pair. I'm probably just calling.
Yep.
And good card. And
You have a good value bet spot. I think you can go medium to big, like 2,200, something like that.
yeah, I think that's right about where I am. I'm not slightly bigger. I'm right in that range.
Good. Oh, boy.
Oddly raised.
Well, what do you think about this guy's strategy? We have notes on him. Do you have any idea what they mean?
Let's see what the notes say.
You got to get those off the screen. These are private.
Right. That he limped under the gun with 3-4 suited and check raised. Yeah, the next note I think actually is in relation to this hand, so I don't want to cheat. Yeah, I mean I'm probably not folding because I just think this is super weird and
The problem is like he obviously has way more twos in his range than you do.
Yeah, and he's going to bet the river a lot too, which is going to get difficult.
Yeah. I mean, obviously from GTO point of view, you just cannot fold. But I mean, this is a good example of a spot where you definitely can fold if you tell me the guy's a nit. If the guy doesn't bluff, then
yeah,
sure, fold no problem. But I usually call in the spot and call on the river and not like it very much. The problem is we have pretty much the top of our range. And that's always a big bummer.
That's what I did.
Yeah, I mean, I would call. And the guy's just doing something dumb, which is why you call.
That's why you call. Good thing for notes. All right.
Yeah. Even without notes, I'd probably just call there unless you tell me the guy's super nit. Like super nitty when it comes to actually putting his money in.
Sure. Just putting this 5 early, nothing to see. Oops. Went too fast there, sorry. A misclick action.
Yeah, don't misclick.
Well, misclick here. Don't misclick when I'm playing, right?
Yeah. All right, you raise it up, get callers.
Always going to see bet.
Yeah, and you can go medium to big in this spot because the board is kind of draw heavy.
That's what I do.
Good.
And then always barreling again.
So I don't hate a turn check because this is kind of like that spot earlier where you had ace king and like say you did want to bet ace king or ace queen or queen jack offsuit on this flop. You want to check those and then check fold some of those. And checking tens here really protects your range.
It's the balance, sure.
Yeah, so I mean, like, if there are hands to check, I think it's fine to check this. But, you know, betting's fine, too. And if you tell me the games are generally passive, I'd be way more inclined to bet.
If we didn't have the 10 of clubs, would that change it? Because we block a lot of his straight draws.
Not really. I'm sure from some GTO point of view, it probably does. But, like, I'm really more so concerned with the opponent's strategy. So if the opponent's going to be, like, betting a ton if I check, taking, like, all of his potential bluffs and bluffing them, then I'm definitely checking. If he's going to raise me a lot if I bet, I'm definitely going to check. If he's going to check behind a ton, if I check, then I'm definitely going to bet. So that's usually what I'm thinking of more than like GTO type stuff in this scenario. Because really, you can go either way, right? You really want to ask, what do I want to happen in this spot?
Sure. What's the most effective against this player type?
Right.
Okay.
So you bet he calls. Check or bet, either one. I mean, same story, right? I mean, to some extent, if you're betting the turn for value, you can almost justify betting the river for value. But now there are a lot of busted draws, so I like check. Also, if you check and he bets, you can easily call.
Call, sure. If I bet and he raises, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's terrible. So I like check.
Yeah, very nice.
Everyone wants to know why you're min raising. Because he's lazy.
Honestly, I've just been min raising for years. We talked about that from the start. I could go bigger. Do you like min raising as stacks get smaller?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even then, I think like 2.1 is probably better.
Sure.
I know a few exploitative players have told me you get way more fold equity with just like slightly bigger raises, and it costs you basically nothing. So getting fold equity is probably ideal when you're shallow.
Sure.
At the cost of 0.1 or 0.2 big blinds more every time you raise.
Yeah, I do that sometimes when with my bet sizes on or post flop rather, where like sometimes I'll go like 1999 and sometimes I'll go 2100 depending on if I want to make it look scary or not. It's kind of like selling a car.
Exactly. JL twice in a day. I'm trying to think, did I even do anything today? Oh yeah, I streamed this morning. We had a little coffee. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time, bright and early. We have some coffee and talk about poker. All right, definitely raise it up. Also, as there's an ante in play, especially if the ante's big, you probably should raise a little bit bigger because the player in the big blind should be defending incredibly wide, and very often they will.
Right.
So they're not really making a mistake.
Sure.
So it's always relevant. You can bet or check, either one.
Tend to check. And
now I would value bet. Once he checks the flop and the turn, it's highly likely he doesn't have a 10.
Or straight, yeah.
Yeah, so given it's highly likely he doesn't have those hands, you want to be betting because there are a decent amount of bad rivers for you. Like ace is bad, queen is bad, jack is bad, 8 is bad, 6 is bad, right?
Yeah.
And he can still easily call you with worse hands. So I would have bet the turn for sure. So it seems like you're just being a little bit too passive across the board.
Yeah, weird nitty, right? Like, yeah.
That's usually with like the medium-ish strength hand. So it's almost like you're sometimes choosing bluff spots that are not ideal, and then other times you're choosing check spots with marginal made hands where you probably just need to get value / protection.
Yeah.
So
not enough. I'm too many bluffs.
You always want to be asking like, why is this happening? And I don't know. Maybe it's just because you like bluffing. Maybe it's because you don't like betting and getting raised. But you want to figure out what the like logical reason you are making these plays is, and then ask yourself, is that logical reason true? Right?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you my thought process is made marginal hand. We try to get the showdown, but I do miss a lot of thin value spots.
I mean, this is even like we're not even necessarily betting for like what I would call value. I'm betting because there are just loads of bad rivers and we have the best hand every time.
Sure.
So it's almost like protection and just realizing your equity very well. Anyway, on this river I would call, but you lose a lot.
Do I get nitty on a big stack? Sure. Because once we get to 30, 40 bigs, then I'm going to start pushing things a lot more.
A lot of people do that, and I'm not necessarily a huge fan of it because you're being nitty out of lack of comfort. And the thing is, you get more comfortable by getting more experience. And especially if you're playing like a large slate of tournaments and not just only high buy-in ones. Like in the smaller buy-in ones, you should be trying to play more pots and trying to experiment and see what happens, right?
Sure, maybe even more reason to get some of that smaller value stuff too, because they're just calling super wide and you're getting more. Yeah, they don't fold.
But you need to get practice, is what it amounts to.
Sure.
All right, let's keep moving forward. So you call river, he has nothing. Good.
Yeah, call river.
Horrible bet size on him by the river. He should definitely be blasting it if he's going to bet.
Yeah, I felt like I just couldn't fold for that price.
Well, no, you can't. You can't fold.
And then,
most of the time, whenever people make plays that they look back at and know are not ideal, it's usually because of some like mental hang up. And maybe like as early in your poker career, you got raised off top pair 6 times and you got really annoyed, and now you're like, that's never gonna happen again. And that results in you checking too often or something like that. So you always want to ask, is what I'm doing logical and rational and good? And if it's not, you have to like really focus on those spots to make sure you don't make those suboptimal plays.
Sure. Realize there's like PTSD there.
Yeah, there really is to some extent. Or some people, they just like call with every draw every time. And it's because they hit their first 7 draws and they're like, oh, draws are good. And they don't even remember that, but they have that ingrained in their brain.
It's like people who have a favorite hand.
Yeah.
You know,
won with that queen 5 every time,
Yeah.
All right, so here we have a raise you flat, which is good. Nice loose splashy game we have here. Terrible board, so you're done.
Yeah. 10 suited. Easy one.
Kind of brutal to make you click 10 times to put in the antes, huh?
So bad. This is not the greatest replayer.
It's all we have, though.
Yeah. I thought it was the best one to review from the most recent. This is like 3 weeks ago or so.
So 3 ways. I think it's fine to just not bet this.
Mm-hmm.
But betting's fine, too. You can kind of do whatever you want. If there was a diamond, I would definitely bet.
For sure. Yeah. And now we just fold.
Yeah.
Do we fold here with the gutter and overs? Yeah.
I would fold because, I mean, some of the cards are not good for you, right? King, queen, jack of hearts is not great.
This is all garbage.
Don't play your garbage hands, everyone. One thing we see is that Toe plays reasonable hands, which is good. You want to play reasonable hands.
It's like I was kind of telling you before. I'm a little snug pre-flop a lot of times, and then post-flop I swing the herd hammer more often. 10 off is probably a fold.
I will say we don't see any or many 3-bet bluffs so far.
Oh, those will definitely come.
All right, well, we've gone through about 100 hands so far, so I would tell you to at least look for ideas.
But right now, I'm pretty nitty.
Which actually could be a flaw, is what I'm trying to say, is that
Sure.
You've only shown me reasonable hands, and none of the spots are like they folded to cut off and he raised, and I 3-bet with the king 5 suited. Right?
Sure.
And you may need to have a few more of those.
Sure.
All right, so you bet flop, which is fine. You could also check here. Like, you can kind of do whatever you want because really the only bad turn for you is an ace.
Right.
Everything else is like okay. So I would have bet there, but that is a spot where you definitely want to make sure you protect your checking range against good people because this just nails their range so hard. I mean, it hits your range too, but you're out of position. When you're out of position, you need to do more checking, and you want to be checking hands that can easily check call down some portion of the time, and that's this hand.
Sure. I mean, general like 10,000 foot view strategy is I tend to check back, 10 kicker and lower for some balance and that kind of thing.
Well, you were out of position here.
Oh, sure. I mean, not C-bet.
Okay. Well, I mean, your position is very important. Like, if I had Jack 8 here and in position and I got checked to, I'd value bet it every time.
Okay.
So, like, position is very, very relevant.
Okay. Because I tend to check that back too.
So anyway.
Again, I think that's kind of the fear you're talking about, fear of getting raised on a wet board like this with Jack 8,
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, your opponent has all sorts of marginal stuff when they check out of position.
Sure.
As we see here, right? I mean, when you check out of position, you just told me you're betting King Jack and Queen Jack. So, I mean, it perfectly lines up with exactly what you're telling me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Terrible flop, so you're done. Lots of multi-way pots here, which is good to see.
Yeah.
It indicates very weak players.
Especially early. Just folding.
Yep. I want to thank everyone for being here today. If you're enjoying this, click like, click subscribe. Also, check out pokercoaching.com/lucky. There we have a big sale going on where you can get access to poker coaching and poker coaching premium at a big discount, including some quizzes there by GodsBigToe. So, check it out. Also, we're doing a giveaway. I'm giving away $500 in cash plus a year of poker coaching premium to the grand prize winner, but also 10 $100 prizes to, 10 other people. So check that out at pokercoaching.com/giveaway. All right, here we go. Jack 9 suited. He limps.
Checker.
I do a lot of checking, but you can raise. I probably don't raise enough in these spots.
I tend to check back the good, pretty suited ones like this, and then Jack 9 off. I'm probably always raising.
Yeah, sure.
And call. And we get there. Should be raising this, I imagine.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I will tell you to definitely make sure that you are focusing on having some bluffs in your range in these spots.
Sure.
Or, just in general, because it does not seem like you're bluffing very often in these spots, which sort of forces you to rely on your opponents making mistakes.
Uh-huh.
Which, is fine when your opponents make a lot of mistakes. But as you move up in stakes, your opponents are going to stop making so many mistakes.
Sure.
And then you're just kind of tread water and then hope to win your flips.
Sure.
So you're going to need to get in there and battle a little bit more, I would generally suggest.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of a habit of just being a mid-stakes online player forever, and so like a lot of this stuff won't work as I move up, like you're saying.
I mean, it's going to
Or
be
it could be
fine.
bad.
You're always going to collect the money from the bad players, but there are fewer and fewer bad players as you either play on tougher sites or play higher stakes or whatnot.
Or like on this situation like this, where I have Matt Affleck at my table like 80% of the time.
Yeah. Well, you need to be prepared to get in there and battle, right?
I do. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Recognize.
Should we raise flop with the flush draw there? No, I would just call. Call's fine. Isn't it better to call the turn and make the flush to get more value on the river? Well, no, because the guy could easily have an ace, king, queen of spades that has plenty of equity. Also, a guy could easily have a set or two pair or top pair and not fold. He could have a worse flush that wants to put money in, which is great. So, no, you want to be raising in that spot. You typically want to raise with your best hands and your draws that lack showdown value, and the jack-high flush is one of your best hands. All right, pocket nines, 3-better call, either one.
Go. And check back.
Just keep
So when he checks twice again, we should be betting?
No, I would check here because now, like, what are you trying to get called by?
Yeah, right.
That's always a question I want to be asking. Like, what am I trying to get value from that can call my bet that I beat? And, like, right here on this turn, there's not a whole lot of it, right?
Yeah, just the gutters, basically.
And the nice thing about pocket sevens here is that pocket sevens is just going to check down and let you win.
Sure.
So I would just check it down for sure.
That's what I did in game.
Check. And, you know, like right here's a good example. If you bet the turn, he's not folding and you just lose money.
Yeah, exactly.
So you want to be betting when you can get called by worse.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be like a ton of worse hands, but they're like logical worse hands.
Sure.
And if you bet the turn there, the guy's going to fold if he has sevens. Sometimes, a lot of the time. And he's never going to fold a better hand. And he could have a better hand like he did.
Let me just pick off all rivers. Pretty much.
I don't even know if the river's a call, really. When it's queen 10, ace 10 blank, it's probably very close because you got to think he's going to bet like queen jack and stuff on the flop. So it may even just be a fold on the river because it's going to go check, and you win a lot of the time.
Okay.
But when he bets the river, it's going to be very polarized, but not to the nuts. It's going to be polarized to like top pair, bad kicker, and middle pair, which he could have a lot of.
Sure.
So I'm not sure if that's a call on the river. It's definitely dicey, especially if you tell me the players are generally passive. All right, so you raise. This is a little bit loose. Queen 10 offsuit in the hijack seats, slightly loose, but whatever.
Okay.
So I would definitely be betting this flop small and frequently.
That's what we do.
Jamie says, "Great to finally catch me live." Yeah, this is a rare treat. Takes something special to get me to stream in the middle of the day, but we have GodsBigToe here, so I figured, why not?
That's funny because it takes something special for me to get up at 6 a.m. to watch a little coffee, so this is great for me too. Always checking, right?
Yeah, just check.
It's worse.
Just check. You know,
Good.
This is good. This is like good poker. You know, we have marginal hand and we're getting to the river.
This deep, I can go either way. Sometimes I 3-bet it. Sometimes I flat it.
Yeah, you can do either one. It's probably fine just to 3-bet when we're playing this deep stacked. But whatever. Call's fine too. I like 3-bet. From 3-bet, I'm going to 3-bet a little bit bigger to like 3,500. Usually about 3.5x from the small blind.
Okay.
Because when you make it 3x, he's just going to call every time because he's getting great pot odds, right? He has to put 2 into 7. I mean, you really think he's not going to realize 2/7 of this pot on average?
Sure.
I mean, he is. He's always going to. So I would definitely just bet flop and
But on the large side, because
this doesn't get nasty.
It's getting a little sticky.
Yeah.
And probably the worst card in the deck, ish.
Yeah. I would check, call.
That's what I do. And then check one.
So I actually don't. This is actually a close spot. And yeah, he doesn't have a whole lot of fives, but like you obviously have none. So it's a very, very free bet for him with his sets, right?
Sure.
2 pairs. Where sometimes, like, when you could easily have that card, it's not quite as free for him to bet with everything.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I mean, well, this is really a player-dependent spot. Is the guy bluffing too often? I would actually be very tempted to fold here because of this kind of smallish bet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's ugly.
I think I would reluctantly fold this.
I think that's what I did.
You did fold, all right. So let's get forward to a few hands towards the end because I only have another 30 minutes or so today. So go to however deep you want to go, and we will go through those hands.
Looks like we go on a bit of a run here.
It's nice to go on a run. So basically, you tread water for a while.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of what I do, especially deep and early, right? Tread water, pick up small pots, get stacked when I can, and then as we get deeper, I can get more folds, and you see me start to open up quite a bit.
Notice some of the stacks are very deep here, though. And I would bet on this site there's probably a lot of value in playing more pots.
Sure.
Splashing around a bit more, because people are probably just making really bad punts. Like right here, you see we're still very deep stacked, right?
Yeah.
Like 40 big, what are we playing? 40 big blinds? No, can't even do math. Is this 70 big blinds deep?
Yeah.
Right, which means that there are 5 players at your table. Oh my God, with like infinite chips.
Right.
No, wait, we're not. No, we're shallow. I'm sorry.
We're super shallow here.
My bad, I was confused. So you're probably playing too tight. I'm just going to throw that out there based on exactly looking at this. You may be playing too tightly. You only have 5 big blinds.
I took a bad beat here somewhere or something.
7 big blinds. Well, whatever. Okay.
Such here. Don't really see, but
Yeah.
you know, it's just when you run good. You find that's the hardest thing to coach is how to hit that 3 on the river.
No, because we all do it about the same amount of the time.
So fair enough. And then probably jam this as well.
I mean, this is a spot where you should be limping a lot of your hands. If the guy plays well, if the guy plays too tightly, then all in's going to be way more profitable.
Sure. I mean, I can tell you, I literally looked at the float the turn, push fold chart, and then went with it.
Well, so I will tell you that the shove fold chart is not so good when you're playing exactly the small blind, because limping is highly valuable here. Because we have to put in 4,000 to win a pot that's going to be 25, right?
Right.
And like you just cannot deny that. So if you use a shove fold chart here, it's going to tell you to shove pretty wide.
Mm-hmm.
But if you use a limp shove or fold chart, you can play like 90% of hands or something like that. So would you rather shove or fold? I don't even know what the number is. Call it 55, 60% of the time. Or would you rather play 90% of your hands? Like 90 is clearly way better.
Sure.
So I would have limped here.
Okay.
Shoving's definitely profitable though. Like it's not losing money, but you would make more money by limping.
Yeah, sometimes a profit move isn't necessarily the most profitable.
We have implementable GTO charts on Poker Coaching, and I think we have some for 15 big blinds, and I would tell you to go check those out. That's under the tool section. If you're not a Poker Coaching member, you can get a big discount right now at pokercoaching.com/lucky for the next few days. So check that out.
All right, and I'd say like I definitely don't play enough, and I actually have it bookmarked. I haven't watched it yet, but like the 15 blinds and under, more of the. I mean, I've been raised decent after 15, but when we start to get to like 13, 14, 12 bigs, I have much less, min raises than I do jams.
We have some good videos by Michael Acevedo, the GTO expert, on shallow stacked play. So check those out if you're a Poker Coaching premium member. Again, big discounts right now. Pokercoaching.com/lucky. All right, ace-6 suited. I mean, what's the shove fold chart say?
Oh, I have it open. Sweet. Let me switch the antes.
Also, if you have an Android device, we actually just relaunched our Push Fold app there. Send us an email and we'll send you a link. Or you can just search probably Poker Coaching Push Fold or something like that in the Android store, waiting on iTunes to get it back up and running again.
Yeah, this is a jam. Oh, is it? No, ace-9 suited.
Yeah, it's close. I was going to say it's probably a fold.
Yeah, it's fold.
But it could be a min raise.
Sure. I might min raise this one. I'm not sure. I did fold.
Like this is a good example where, like on a shove fold chart, this is going to be a fold. But if you're using min raise, shove, or fold strategy, it's probably a min raise.
Sure. And you look so much stronger on the stack size doing it from here too.
And sometimes the best hands to raise in that spot are just straight blocker hands because you can raise it and then fold if you get jammed on.
Sure.
So I would just be all in.
Easy. Let's get there.
Ted, please do what I suggested. Send us an email, support@pokercoaching.com, or search Poker Coaching Push Fold app in the Android store, and it may come up. It just got approved yesterday, so check that out. We'll be having a full Poker Coaching app eventually. Turns out it takes forever, and it takes a lot of money that I am throwing into a pit. It's kind of like a boat. I'm spending loads of money on something that I have not seen, and I'm very frustrated. All right, so you raise 9-6-6. I would just be betting small, I think. It's kind of a rough spot. It's probably like a bet call off. I would not bet big here.
I went big to commit him, but I definitely could see.
Well, so the problem with betting big to commit him is he never gets to bluff.
Right.
Whereas if you bet like 15K or 20K, now he may jam with all sorts of junk.
Sure.
Like Jack 10, which you're crushing. So I think I would have bet small in this scenario.
Yeah, I think it's one of my bad habits too that I leak I need to work. I lean toward the big bet too much in a lot of spots. I think this is definitely one of those.
So very often you just don't want the opponent to play well. And playing well there, like say you jam all in, which is basically what you did. The guy just has an easy call or fold based on his
calls
hand.
with a 9 or better and folds everything else, right?
Well, no, call with any pair and probably call like ace king or ace queen.
Sure.
But he's not going to fold any good hand there. He's going to play perfectly, pretty much.
Yeah, it's bad.
Whereas if you bet small, he may jam Jack 10 or something, right?
Yeah, it's definitely bad. Fold.
This is great. So he has no chips. So this is one of these spots where I think you're probably supposed to bet like one big blind or maybe even check because the guy's drawing dead or nearly dead. So I would bet very tiny if I'm going to bet. And like right here, the reason I would say one big blind instead of two is just because the guy's stack size. Again, how do you get the guy to screw up? Yeah,
this is still half a third of a stack.
Right. Once you make this bet, he's just never going to bluff you. Whereas if you bet minimum, he might do something silly. And also, I think that's probably just the check behind there because your hand is so strong.
Especially when they always have a stack you probably should have won. It's always good to check. They're going to jam a lot of turns thinking, I don't have a king and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right. You also want to ask, like, are there any bad turns for me that, like, really crush me? And the answer there is just no.
Yeah.
So I would probably check there.
Easy call.
Easy call. You getting tired of clicking yet? How are you going to stream tonight?
Oh, I do this all day. This is my second study group today. All right, we can defend you. And easy check.
Yep.
Probably just checking it down, imagine. Oh.
Well, so I was going to say, again, on this turn, I think betting is at least viable. Because, I mean,
he doesn't have very many.
Again, you just have the best hand a ton.
Where's jacks?
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
You really do have the best hand almost every time here. It's a little bit different if, say, the turn was like a 7, right? If the turn was a 7, then now he could randomly have straights and 2 pairs that he's getting tricky with. But he just does not have too many 10-2s and king 2s, right?
Sure.
So you get to value bet this a lot. And you could easily have queen jack or ace 10 or 10-9, and all those will call a small bet or a medium bet. So I think I bet something like 40K on the turn. So this has come up a few times now where you're just checking it down every time with the middle pair, but there's some spots where your middle pair is very good. I think the other one was like top middle pair, top kicker again, similar spot. Where the board was kind of draw heavy where you can get value and protection. So I bet something like 40K here, I think.
Sorry, I had to make a note.
Always take notes. Notes are great.
And then betting for value.
Yep. You're not going to get called very often, but it is what it is. I like a big bet in case he does have a king or a 10 and hero calls.
Next we go a little bit dead. I don't know if we're near 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, probably not near the final table. So I think these are spots because I feel like when I flat here a lot, I get opened up to a lot of squeezes. Probably flat here a lot.
So if I'm going to play this, I would either min re-raise or fold.
Otherwise, that way you avoid the squeeze.
Yeah, and so whenever the opponent jams for 5 big blinds or fewer, I min re-raise every time.
Okay.
Assuming it makes logical sense for my stack. And if they jam for more than 5 big blinds, I call.
Makes sense.
Because the big blind's still not getting great odds.
Yeah.
To call in that scenario.
Okay. I did just fold. This looks like a bunch of hot garbage. Same kind of spot, no?
Yeah, same spot.
A little more than a click.
Yeah, I would always just do absolute minimum. I would not do it all.
Give myself a chance to fold out.
And the thing is, like, whenever you're doing a min re-raise, you have to ask how much is it to my opponent now, right? It's not like the initial raiser is irrelevant to that point. So it's more of, am I still giving the player in the big blind good odds to call? When you make it what's effectively 6 big blinds pre-flop, they're not getting good odds to call at all, right?
Right. Okay.
And you may say, like, doesn't that make me exploitable? Because if I min re-raise, can't they just jam me every time? And the answer is no, because you're going to have aces and kings and queens and jacks and tens and ace-king that you min re-raise and then call off. So I would jam here, so that's good.
Cool. Just rejam 10 bigs?
Yeah, against this. So, look, the only time I would not jam here is if I knew the initial raiser was tight because of the 2 big stacks in the big blind and small blind. So I'm always, like, hyper aware of that concept, that the Kai and the cutoff actually should be very tight. Assuming we're deep in this tournament, so there's probably, like, 18 people left or 28 people left or something. So, given we are very deep in this game, this guy probably should be pretty snug here. Actually, never mind. We're a long way. Never mind. So if we're a long way away from the final table, then I would just always jam.
Just go for it.
Yeah. But if the guy is going to be tighter than normal for some reason, that's a good reason for you to not jam, or at least consider not jamming. With 10 big blinds, it's fine to get it all in. Another easy jam.
Jam.
Save time. You can just jam in those spots, and I don't care how the board runs out.
Okay.
I'm not interested. I know a lot of people like to sweat out the action, especially if we're on Twitch, and they're like, "Oh, what happens?" Well, I already know you're going to take 8th place. Okay, so you're not losing. You're going to win all the all-ins when you raise and get called.
The public wants to know.
The public loves to know how the board runs out.
They want to wrap behind.
Yeah, exactly. So, guy limps. I would raise to about 3 big blinds, 3.5 big blinds. So this is good. Lead minimum. Well, I would just go ahead and raise to like 80K, I think. So you go huge. And again, I'm not a big fan of this huge raise. I say it's huge. It's not actually huge. It's probably like 2/3 pot or something.
Yep.
But the thing is you have to ask, what is this guy probably leading with? And it's probably going to be a lot of marginal hands, right?
Yep. And
pretty much any raise size you make to like 80K is going to not give him amazing odds. And I mean, if he'll call, like, the thing is, I don't really think you necessarily want the guy folding out a 10, even if he is going to get there on you some portion of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to min raise, but at the same time, I don't think you want to blast it, because when you blast it, he's just going to fold correctly, right? So there's some line in here where he's going to like have a break-even decision with his one pair type hands, which is probably what he has. And it's probably more like 110K or something, if I had to guess. So maybe 80 is even a little bit too small.
Okay.
Look, this is a weird scenario, to be fair, right? Guys min betting for a 7th pot. It just doesn't happen all that often.
You'd be surprised how often this happens in the lower stakes.
Oh, well, good. Well, what kind of hand does it usually represent?
It's usually a Jack X, Jack shit kicker, or sometimes a 10X, and then King Queen.
So you want to do everything in your power to make your hand not look like aces.
Right.
So what does not look like aces?
It's either a smaller raise or, flatting seems a little.
Yeah, I would not flat, because then you're just giving him good odds.
So the smaller raise is the better way to go for sure.
Yeah, I would go a little bit smaller, because when you raise big, it's going to make him afraid. I mean, he still might just put it in with a jack, but now he may fold out a 10, which is not really what you want.
Yep.
Especially at this stage of the tournament. I mean, this is the kind of play that results in you making a lot of, 9th place finishes, as opposed to getting action here and going broke 15 or 20% of the time.
Yeah, but 80% of the time you get all the chips, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, these are the spots where you either get a lot of chips or you don't, or you just win this pot right here, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But you really want to call it gamble and get a load of chips or not.
Yeah, I'm not giving my opponents enough of an opportunity to make mistakes.
Right, so there's been 3 or 4 hands like this where you have not given them the chance to make mistakes. You kind of force them to play well, and presumably they have.
I just always has the jack. Kind of a bad card.
I mean, he could easily have a 10. He could have all sorts of stuff. I mean, who knows? Who knows what the guy's doing, right?
Sure.
So I would probably just be all in here, even though it is a bad card. Because now if he does have king queen or ace jack or jack 9, like now he's getting
I checked that, but he had a lot of 2 pairs and whatnot. That kind of scared me, but I could definitely.
The thing is, you're not folding.
Sure.
If the guy jams the river, you're never folding.
So when I check back, I just give him a free.
You give him a free shot to get there on the river.
Yeah.
Jay says 80K is too low. Well, it depends on the opponent's strategy, right? So I would be all in here on the river. Same story. You have the best hand like every time, unless the guy is playing some weird exploitative strategy.
I don't know why in the world I would call here. This is pretty terrible.
I hope he has a queen to prove me wrong, but at least in my experience, when people go minimum bet here, they just always have marginal made hand. Always.
Always.
So if they always have marginal, literally every time. So if you want to level me, min bet the river, and I'll value raise you to death. The thing is, you're not even value raising all that wide here. If you have a 10, you're just going to call. Right. And if you have a jack, it's close.
Probably still
so you're really only raising with kings or better.
Yeah.
Or queen, obviously, right? So I would definitely jam the river. Maybe even raise small if you want to be really exploitative. If he makes it 20, make it 83. And try to get him to level himself into doing something really dumb. But you got to raise the river there. So it seems, look, terrible. I get the idea that you want to be careful in that spot because if you are wrong, you lose your stack. But you actually have the best hand every time.
Yeah, especially with the queen pair specifically.
So if the river was not a queen and the guy min bet, I'd be way more cautious. Say the river's a 2.
This negated all those 2 pairs and other weird stuff.
Yeah, right, exactly. And given the way he played the min bet flop, and he thought it's a lot of jacks and 10s, and it's just the story very, very cleanly lines up.
Yeah.
So Jay says, very weird play. It is a very weird play, but we need to be prepared for very weird plays, right? We need to be aware of these types of things and know how to adjust on the fly to whatever the opponents do wrong. So you can really go whatever way you want here. The hand's great. It's probably fine just to jam, but
I can see jamming out. For me, I do that a lot, or sometimes I'll just maybe limp jam here as well.
Use the implementable shove fold chart. So anyway, once the guy raises, I would just be all in now.
Yeah. That's what I did.
How many tables do I play at a time online? As many as I can to some extent. It depends on if I'm playing high stakes or not. If I'm playing the very high stakes games, maybe 12 at the most. If I'm playing just a slate of random stuff, then 20. So a lot.
I average somewhere between 6 and 9, and then on a big day, I'll be doing up to 15 or so. It's
probably the right thing to do. Whenever you're playing smaller stakes, you should be playing more tables in general, I think. But when you're playing the higher stakes stuff, you probably want to play fewer tables. Also depends on the setup, right? You have a nice, good setup at home. That's very different than if you're playing on a laptop.
Yeah, sure. But it's always better to go less autopilot, which is what you tend to do when you're 20 tabling, right?
So anyway, here we have this hand, just min raise. I would still just bet small. That's good.
Go really card dead for a while.
That's fine. That's why you want to have a lot of chips.
Yep.
You will go card dead in tournaments, and that is A-okay.
Let's fold. Some of these medium hands.
This was you were asking what the buy-in was here. This was a $320 buy-in ring tournament to win a ring. Because that's exactly what every poker player needs is a ring.
Yeah, but the $50,000 on top, you can buy a nice ring.
Oh, yeah, $50,000. Yeah. Don't forget that. Jam's too big, so you fold.
Skip a whole bunch of it.
It is worth mentioning briefly, don't get carried away with this idea, but if your opponents seem to be using a jam or fold strategy, and they're using it well, when you're playing 20-ish big blinds deep, you should probably start figuring out a limping strategy. Because they're not going to be jamming over limps for 25 big blinds, but they may be jamming you a lot for 25 big blinds.
So then I can open limp, and when they raise, I can just easily just call and play post or fold. Whatever.
Yeah, like King 10 of Hearts, you really hate raise folding that hand.
Right.
Why didn't we call off against the all-in? Because we were in bad shape. Well, we were facing a 22 big blind all-in, right?
Yep.
And so that's a good example of a spot where if you know they're going to be jamming you very frequently, the hands that flop well and some nut hands are very, very good limping options with 20-something-ish big blinds. That said, it's not like the GTO strategy or anything, but just be aware of that some people will jam very, very frequently, and that's not good for you. So you'd rather that not happen. So take them somewhere where they have not necessarily studied, and usually that's when you're limping.
Sure. Then we can easily call and play post in position. Super easy. Also, for those of you who have questions about calling jams, you're not using ICMizer. It's a great program for finding out when to jam and when to call off jams. And if you run it all the time, you get a really good feel for where you should be in most spots.
You can see me testing myself on ICMizer on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/pokercoaching. Search Jonathan Little ICM. I'm sure it'll come right up. Here's a good spot to make an easy call.
Sure. I would argue like Poker Tracker is probably the number one, or whatever HUD you use is probably the number one tool just so you can review. But after that, I think ICMizer is probably the number 2 tool out there for most. If you're not going to go crazy with things like Pio and things like that.
If you play tournaments, for sure.
Yeah.
Presumably we are. So easy all in. I already know you win because it's for all your chips. Easy call again. Again, easy call. So the previous King Tim Sudo was easy fold. This was easy call.
Yep.
You thought this was a bracelet event. No, only a ring event. The bracelet events happen in the summer. It's not the summer quite yet.
So, yeah, it's a circuit event. WSOP circuit. So is this a place where you might limp?
Yeah, sure.
Because of small blind?
I mean, I would still probably just min raise, but limping, like this is a good example of a spot where I would consider it. I would not just naturally do it. But if I know this guy's jamming on me frequently, then I would start doing it. Like so far, this guy seemed to be reasonable, if anything. He hasn't jammed on you all that often.
Yeah, and then these two guys are big time regs. Zebra and Young Pitts. Pitts is, I can't remember who it is. He's a well-known player, though.
If they are good players, by the way, I'm just going to be more inclined to min raise against good players because they're not going to be jamming all the time. Like they're actually going to have a flatting range, which is actually slightly better for you, right?
Sure.
Bracelet events may be happening online this year too. They happened the last few years. They've had a few bracelet events.
Yeah, they always have 5 or 6, but I think they might move the whole series online. I mean, today, I don't know if you heard, they shut down Vegas. Every slot machine got turned off for the first time in history.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy out there right now.
It's an interesting world with the virus going around, and you better get good at online poker.
Well, that's the other thing, too. It is booming out there right now. The fields are twice as big as they normally are.
Study up. Go to pokercoaching.com/lucky. Sign up for Poker Coaching Premium, and you can learn from many of the best online poker players in the world, teaching you how to crush the games. And now is the perfect time. All right, min raise, I would definitely call.
Well, I 3-bet this sometimes.
I mean, you can. This is one of these hands where you really don't want to 3-bet and get jammed because it flops well enough and you're closing the action. I'm going to be 3-betting way more polarized in this spot, personally.
Okay.
But, whatever. Again, consult the charts at pokercoaching.com in the tools section. Mm-hmm. And you can mix it up, call, 3-bet. But I'm going to be calling here a ton.
Okay. I did call in game. And we have to call, obviously, for the crappy bet.
If they jam on you often, is it better to jam instead? Well, not if you're jamming for like 40 big blinds into a bunch of other people. It's not better. All right, so I would just fold here now.
And then also, also, like you said, if you limp, it's harder for them to just shove 20 bigs. So they're just going to ISO you more often.
What happens very often is they'll be like 20 big blind shove stack, a 20 big blind shove stack, and then a bunch of 40 big blind shoves or 40 big blind stacks. And you can't just jam 40 big blinds because you're going into it every once in a while. 2s is fine to fold if you feel inclined.
Twos and threes, I probably fold there pretty often. Fold. Looks like we're in the final table bubble.
All right.
Think.
I would tell you to not be so concerned with final table bubbles in general.
No.
Because usually, well, first off, look, in my mind, there's little to no prestige attached to final tabling an online tournament. Okay. There may be for some people. I know there are some online sites where you get little accolades and trophies for making the final table, but it doesn't really make you a whole lot of money. And very often, 9th place and 10th place may be the same. And if that's the case, then there's like no real benefit at all for making the final table. So just be aware of that, everyone out there. Where can you find the implementable GTO charts? At pokercoaching.com, navigate to the tool section, and there we have 15 big blind charts that have limp, shove, or fold strategies from the small blind and then min raise, fold, shove, or fold strategies from the other positions.
Just folding a 6 suit in here?
Yep. I mean, you could min raise. Like, again, if there are hands you want to start bluffing with, if you want to widen your range a bit, these are good ones. The suited ace-x, because they have a blocker to their jamming hands. So I definitely think that's a reasonable spot to raise, especially if you've been tight recently, especially if your opponents are a little bit too tight themselves. it's a pretty good spot to min raise. Here's a nasty one. You have to ask, what are the ranges at play? Is this guy tight? Is this guy loose?
I have marked as tight without looking at the notes.
So I would fold.
And then would you be more like, I mean, is this a easier fold at a final table with ICM?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, it obviously depends on the stacks. I mean, it's kind of brutal here that you have 1 million and we see a few very big stacks.
Yeah.
Like a 5 million stack. I guess only one very big stack. So, like, when there's one very big stack and a bunch of other shallow stacks, you're kind of likely to move up a few payouts.
Okay.
Which is nice. You'd rather just sit there and move up the payouts.
Yep.
It's tough because when you get deep, like, obviously you're incentivized to try to get some chips. But at the same time, if you can ladder up 6 or 8 spots with no risk and then still have chips and get to play, it's very tempting to do that. And with your chip stack here, I would be pretty snug. Sixes, I would fold.
This is the final table, too.
I mean, so, like, right here, you have to ask, is stay active loose and active? If stay active is loose and active, I would be all in.
Sure.
If there were someone at the table with, like, 250K, I would definitely fold.
Sure.
So, you see, it depends not just on our stack and our opponent's stack and their range. It depends also on what the other stacks are on the table. And this is where, like you said, ICMizer would be very beneficial. You can check that out at jonathanlittlepoker.com/ICM. And also I have videos on YouTube of me playing around with it, so check that out.
Yeah, it looks like most of this is just crap.
Well, if you have a bunch of crap, you just fold. Which is actually kind of nice at the final table because you don't get in trouble. Right here's another good example of a spot with the King-9 offsuit where like, you could jam and stay active as overly active. And notice, like, of the spots that stay active gets to get wide, this is one of them, right? He gets to raise very wide when he is in the hijack, cutoff button, and low jack seat because he's raising into all shallower stacks.
Yeah.
So this is like one of the spots he can get loose. So given he can get loose here, you should at least consider jamming if it's obvious he's getting too loose.
Got it.
Okay.
And that way, too, I turn the tables on, right? I get to ICM, shit on him instead. I put a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah. What is ICM? ICM is the independent chip model. Google Jonathan Little ICM. We'll be discussing it some, I'm sure. Or YouTube it. Basically, it's the adjustments you have to make pertaining to the payout structure. Like right here is a spot where if there were no payout implications, this would just be an easy all-in every time. With payout implications, it becomes way closer to the point that this may actually be a fold.
I really, really wasn't sure. I lost sleep over this hand.
Yeah, I think it's probably a fold. It's tough because under the gun, you just told me he's tight, right?
Yep.
However, he does have the blind coming to hit him next hand, and very often people will shove a little bit too wide when they're under the gun in the spot, I think. Especially if there is big blind ante, but this is not big blind ante, this is regular ante. So I think I would fold here. And again, this is a good ICM example. In a normal scenario, I think you just have to be in. In this scenario, though, with 1, 2 equally shallow stacks and this guy being equally shallow, I think it's probably a fold.
I'm so sad you said that. I had a long conversation with Justin about this one. He's like, it's a snap. And I'm like, I don't know. I need to run this one.
Run it. What did it say when you ran it?
I haven't run it yet. I was actually kind of saving it. I didn't look at this on purpose. I want to come in blind. But and I have to manually type this in with this replayer. I can't just copy and paste.
I can pretty much tell you that if this guy is jamming tightly,
yep, it's a snap.
It's an easy fold. Because, wwhat is his jamming range? Think about it right off the bat. Here, we'll get out.
It's all pairs and ace-king, and then maybe ace-jack or something like that. I'm doing terrible.
We're just going to run this in Equilab real quick. So this is not even accounting for payout implications at all. Let me see. Oh, it's not pulling it up for some reason for me. All right, so let's give you... I'm just going to do this on my end because it's not letting you see it on your replay. What do you think this guy's raising? So tell me what you think he's raising or jamming with under the gun, realistically.
I don't know, like 6s plus. As a stretch, maybe ace-10 suited plus, ace-jack suited, somewhere in that range, and then ace-queen better.
Okay, so I'm going to give him even wider than this. We're going to give him ace-10 suited and better, king-jack suited, queen-jack suited, ace-jack offsuit and better, and pocket 6s. Okay, against that, you have 49% equity. So you're behind, slightly looser than what you just told me, with no payout implications.
Yeah.
And to make matters worse, each player behind you is going to wake up with a nut hand like 2 or 3% of the time, or like 4 or 5% of the time. So that makes this an easy fold. If this guy was like cut off jamming and we're on the button, then his range is going to be wider, and we don't have to worry about the players yet to act, right?
Right. He's super strong jamming on the middle table.
Yeah. So this is just a fold, and like the guy could easily be tighter. The guy's range could actually be like ace jack suited and better, and pocket eights and better, or something like that. In which case you have 39% equity, which is terrible. So you got to fold. Easy fold here.
I wish you can see me. I'm trying to stab myself through the chest with my mouse right now.
That's okay. Sometimes you have to stab yourself.
Yeah, sometimes. Then that way, like, I want to remember these spots because I really felt like folding in game and then just didn't. And
I mean, even ace king's close, like especially with ICM implications. Yeah. I mean, run this through ICMizer or ace king. It's probably going to tell you it's a fold. I mean, against the tight range I just gave you, eights and better, ace jack suited, king queen suited, and ace queen off suited. You're 50-50.
Right.
So it's an easy fold, right?
Yep.
And if you're ever 50-50 in spots like this, you just have to fold. Look, you're going to go run it right now and grind and sear this into your brain so you never make this mistake again.
I know better, too. I really argued that it was a fold.
Even if you're like on the button, it's just a fold.
Yeah.
I mean, it really just is. I know a lot of people are like, how can you possibly fold this? Well, you're just in bad shape. It is what it is.
Yeah. And, I mean, a lot of times you're flipping.
So look, that idea of I am flipping a lot is the logic a lot of people use. Like, oh, I'm flipping a lot of the time. But you're flipping like 80% of the time. And then 20% of the time you're screwed.
Right. And more often than not, you're on the bad side of the flip, too. Yeah.
Don't run it right now. Do it later. We'll be done soon.
That's it. We bust this hand and then get it in the mix.
Well, we don't bust this hand. We have some chips left. So we had nines.
Yeah, we get it in the mix. We get a weak ace with the 5 bigs.
I would actually tell you to run this one too, because this actually could be a fold. Using a shove fold chart, obviously, is going to stay to jam, but this is very close, especially with no big blind ante. I mean, ace X under the gun is not a great hand.
Right.
Obviously, your opponents are now aware that you're going to be shallower stacked in this spot. Mm-hmm. And look, shoving's probably just fine, but I would tell you to run this one too. That's homework for everyone. Go to icmizer.com, take a screenshot right now while it's up, and run this. That's homework for everyone. So yeah, go to... Yeah,
or I'm going to stream after this, so if you want to run it together, I'll run this on my stream after this too, and we can see it together too.
When are you doing it? Literally right now?
Literally right when we're done.
Okay, so we're about to be done here, and you all need to go to GodsBigToe stream, twitch.tv/GodsBigToe. He's going to run this to ICMizer right now as soon as we're done here. If you're watching the replay of this, I tell you what, send me the results, and I will post them in the comments, buried in the comments somewhere, so we don't spoil it. So, click in the comment section, go down there, and you will see what the answer was to both of these situations. I can already tell you, it's going to be fold for the first one, easy.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be, I think, jam in this one. If there was one or two shallower stacks, though, this would be a fold too.
Sure, if we were closer to even stacks, even on the 5 bigs, sure, absolutely.
All right. So that's it. Good. Thank you very much for being here with me today.
Hey, thank you for it. I appreciate it. There was a lot of stuff to work on for sure. Definitely some of those marginal hands I can get value from. The middle pair stuff for sure. When the action is telling me that I can get that value, I should definitely take it. Bigger bets when I'm deep stack was a big one. Both on my C bets, my turn bets, and my openings. What was the other one? Clicking back to 5 lines or less, and then flatting otherwise, and quit being weird nitty.
Did you say value bet slightly more? I think you said that.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
With the marginal hands, yeah.
Excellent. Well, good. I'm glad you have some good notes. Herland says on the push fold chart, it says ace 5 offsuit or better, which means it's going to be a fold. But that said, don't use the push fold charts at final tables because there are payout implications. And sometimes you're supposed to jam like wider, sometimes tighter. It gets a little bit convoluted. So be careful following push-fold charts when there are payout implications involved, which is at final tables like right here where we are. And you ended up taking 8th place in this $320 ring event. Almost there. Got to keep grinding.
Yeah, and obviously lots of room for improvement. I mean,
good. That's exactly what you want.
Obviously, you could get some work, so it's great. It's good. I'm excited. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the time.
Thanks to all of you for being here with me today. If you want access to my quizzes, GodsBigToe's quizzes. Also, content from many of the best poker players in the world. Head over right now to pokercoaching.com/lucky. We have a big sale going on for you. I realize a lot of you are stuck at home, for the foreseeable future, so you might as well make the most of your time. Please do not squander it. Also, I'm giving away $1,500 in cash, $500 to the grand prize winner, and $100 to 10 other people at pokercoaching.com/giveaway. I appreciate all of you, and I do my best to try to give back. Thanks to everyone again for being here. If you like this video, click like, click subscribe. Anything else you want to say, Jared?
Thank you so much once again, and I appreciate it. Gonna hit the streets and try and make $1 million. Let's go.
Awesome. Let's do it. Head over to a stream right now at twitch.tv/GodsBigToe.
Thanks again, John.